Welcome to Influential Sports. Make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. That's just it's going to be one of my most controversial videos. That's my top 50 wrestlers of all time list. Not just WWE, but TNA, AEW, New Japan Pro, Ring of Honor, ECW, WCW, NWA, AWA, Lucha Underground. Going to be including all these promotions and what these wrestlers did, promo skills, pure wrestling ability, like in the actual match, ability to tell a story, character development, like a guy like Seth Rollins, a guy that's always been able to reinvent himself and always had made the characters work, whether it was if it was a bad idea or not, he made the characters work, stuff like that. How big of a draw you were, that's definitely gonna matter. It won't have too much. It's not like a huge impact factor, but it's definitely gonna matter because certain guys on here based off of their impact that they had. And then some honorable mentions is Sherry Martel for her time in AWA in the late 80s, early 90s. Her feud with Medusa was one of the best for women's history, and just both of them were pioneers for the women's division in the 80s. And then seeing the women that's wrestling now, being able to see that. Melina, I think she was a pretty good wrestler. She definitely deserves to be mentioned. Eddie Edwards, the most underrated wrestler of all time, in my opinion. Been in TNA for his career. Had world championship reigns. Had a fun feud with Moose. Absolutely love Eddie Edwards. And Bob Backlund, way before my time, but he deserves his respect. So those are my honorable mentions. Now let's get into the top. Starting off the list at number 50, I have Kane. Felt like he could have done more in his WWE career. Felt like he was a very underutilized talent. Wish he had stuff whenever he had the mask on, he was great. But whenever he took it off, I just didn't like the stuff that he was doing. Whether it was the Edge and Leah stuff, not really a big fan of those storylines in the first place, or the stuff with the Authority. Not a big fan of that either. Number 49 is the most controversial one, but I have CM Punk. I mean, he's a great heel, but he's a pretty bad babyface. I mean, aside from the straight edge society and the best in the world gimmick, CM Punk doesn't have a lot of memorable moments. I mean, you look at stuff in AEW, I mean, sure, he was the world champion, but that didn't really do nothing. So I have CM Punk at 49. AJ Lee, she was a great wrestler, and I hope she comes back sometime this year. But I had to put AJ Lee on here. She was a pioneer. Her going 2-on-1 against the 1-on-2 against the Bella Twins. A lot of the times, it was really them feuding for a long time. But even her just being a cocky, arrogant Divas champion, like her reign was really fun. She was definitely one of my favorite wrestlers from that Divas era. At 47, I have Will Ospreay. Won world championships around the world. Clearly, Okada has his number, but Will Ospreay, I think he can move. I think in about 3-5 more years, he'll move up even more on this list. He's a great wrestler. I love his promos. He can definitely draw a crowd. Like what he was able to do in New Japan and now the stuff in AEW, he's definitely a huge draw. At 46, I had an EST of WWE, Bianca Belair. Hasn't had the longest career yet, and you know her career is only going to get better from here. So she'll probably be top 20 all the time when it's all said and done. Won the NXT Women's Championship, then won the World Championships on the main roster, then won the Tag Team Championship, putting on good matches consistently with people like Io Sky. But her and Damage Control always had great chemistry. Had a fun feud and matches with Becky Lynch. So it's only room for Bianca Belair to go up. At 45, I have Gail Kim. She was the inaugural TNA Knockouts Women's Champion. She won the record-setting 7 times. No other woman has won as much as Gail Kim did. I feel like her rivalry with Awesome Kong really helped put women's wrestling on the map in the early 2000s. And I know a lot of people disagree with this, but I do think she's deserving of this spot, and it's my list. So that's where Gail Kim at. At 44, I have Ricky Steamboat, NWA legend, who won the U.S. Championship a few times, won the television championship a couple of times. I think he was the world champion in NWA once. One of the greatest wrestlers of all time. So I had to put Ricky Steamboat here. Obviously, another guy before my time, so I haven't seen as much footy as as much footage of Ricky Starks as some of these other guys, which is why he's lower on my list. I can see the argument if people want to have him higher, but this is where I have Ricky Steamboat at, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. At 43 is where I have Medusa. I kind of talked a little bit about her and Sherry Martel's rivalry earlier in AWA, putting Japan on the map, putting women's wrestling on the map, and then eventually making her way to the WWF, where she was a Lunger Blaze, did some cool stuff, then making the transition to WCW, where she threw the WWF Women's Championship in the trash and became Medusa. Like I said, her rivalry with Sherry Martel, they really put House Women Wrestling on the map, and she's one of the pioneers, so I had to put her on this list. At 42, some might disagree, but this is where I have Chris Benoit. He was a very talented wrestler. Like, he could go in the ring. Unfortunately, a lot of shots to the head. CTE got to him. He went crazy, and I'm not going to talk about all that. Rest in peace to him. But you got to learn to separate the athlete from the person. And I seen a clip earlier while I'm making this, just all the headshots that he took. Not all of them, but a lot of headshots he took. And it's just, those shots were not protected at all. So it made sense why he just went crazy. Not justifying that was the right thing to do. But when you see that many shots to the head, it makes sense that something mentally is going to be wrong with you. At 41, I had Jake the Snake Roberts, and I ain't mentioned this earlier when I brought up Ricky Steamboat, but they had a really good rivalry back in the day. It was one of the most talked about rivalries. But Jake the Snake and his character, bringing the snake out, felt like that was amazing. The stuff he did, even though he lost to Stone Cold, that was a cool moment for him and Stone Cold Steve Austin. At number 40, I have Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley he's always been amazing. He was definitely underutilized in WWE. Like, he could have done a lot more. And wish he stayed, because right when they were doing the Hurt Business stuff, they were starting to get it together. I think he was the world champion when Sheldon and Cedric were the tag champs. But where Bobby really made his name was TNA, where he had all the belts. And that run was amazing. You could definitely argue for him to be higher. Just with that TNA run alone, with him collecting all the belts, no matter what championship it was in each division, I was like, at that point, he might as well got to the women's championship. Now, you know TNA wasn't going to do that, but that would have been cool to see. Bobby Lashley, phenomenal wrestler, feel like he gets better and better on the mic, because I don't think he was that great on the mic to start his career, but I think he's just gotten better over the last few years, and now he's doing stuff in AEW, and I'm hoping it goes well with him and the Hurt Syndicate with MVP and Shelton Benjamin. At number 39, I have Booker T, 11-time WCW Tag Team Champion, a 6-time World Champion, won King of the Ring. His King Booker gimmick was amazing. Obviously, with multiple companies such as TNA, WCW, WWE, one of the greatest black wrestlers of all time. Definitely a pioneer for his time. I started his career off as a tag team wrestler with his brother. So, yeah, I got Booker T at 39. You can have an argument for him being higher, but I think the guys I got above him have just had better careers. At number 38, I had a Father of the Year, Christian Cage. His gimmick in AEW as this father figure for everybody has been absolutely incredible. Been with WWE, TNA, AEW, where he's headlined multiple pay-per-view events, won over 26 championships in his career, a 7-time world champion, a 9-time tag team champion. Felt like he was underutilized in WWE, and they definitely could have did more stuff with him. With him being able to go to TNA, reinvent himself and show how good he was, and while he should have gotten that spotlight that he deserved in WWE, now the stuff that he's doing in AEW, they're probably gonna win the world championship at some point this year. So I had to put Christian Cage in this spot. At 37, I have Owen Hart. Rest in peace. Short-lived career. Definitely could have been longer. Hate to see it end that way. But King of the Ring winner in 1994, former multiple-time Intercontinental Champion, won the European Championship at one point, and he was a multiple-time Tag Team Champion. As I said, he had a really good career, going to New Japan, WCW, WWF. Just unfortunately died young, was only 34 years old. Definitely could have been higher on this list if he lived longer and had a longer career. At At 36, I have Brock Lesnar. Obviously came from the UFC. Had his times he was off and on, whether it was in WWE or he took some time off to go to UFC. That's really why he's slow on this list, because Brock Lesnar was a big draw. His matches were always big, but he wasn't very consistent. Not as like a wrestler. He was a good wrestler, but he wasn't consistently there all the time, so I couldn't put him super high on this list. At 35, I have Sasha Banks, also known as Mercedes Moné. There's only 3 of the 4 horsewomen on this list, and Bayley did not make it. But Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, whatever you want to call her, she did. Currently, at this moment, she has been the best of the 4 horsewomen right now. I think the other 2 I have above her have been better all the time. But right now, she's winning championships all over the world, just continuing to improve. Had a solid WWE career. It could have been better if her title reigns weren't like 2 to 4 weeks each time she won the championship. Now she's actually winning titles and getting lengthy reigns. I think the promo skills definitely need some work, but she is a really good wrestler. At 34, I have Kurt Angle, a great wrestler, a former Olympian. I think his best work was when he was in TNA. I feel like that's when he was at his best. Had a solid WWE run, but feel like it could have gone better. But his stint in TNA was really good. At 33, I have Edge. WWE obviously saw something in him that they didn't see in Christian Cage. But Edge, his WWE run, it was a lot of fun. And the stuff he's did, obviously him being injured for so long, it definitely hurts his case for him being higher on the list. Because I can see that argument if you want to have him higher on the list in your personal opinion. But with the injuries, I definitely had to consider that and think about that. And now the stuff he's doing in AEW, not a huge fan of it, because how can he be defending AEW when he's not the original AEW guy? But don't like the story there. But Edge has always been a great worker, always been a great wrestler, and always been a solid promo. At 32, I have Eddie Guerrero, one of the greatest in-ring wrestlers. Had great mic skills, just unfortunately died young. That's just a sad situation. Rest in peace to him. But yeah, if he had a longer career, he would probably be higher on this list, because he was a really great in-ring worker, had pretty good mic skills. But that's all I got. At 31, I do have Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief. His Tribal Chief run has been amazing, but we can't overlook all the things from the past with the suffering succotash and all that. Like the era of Big Dog Roman Reigns was not good. Even when you look at the stuff in the Shield, Dean Ambrose was the clear star of the group. He was the one cutting the promos. He was the one in the single matches, while Seth and Roman, they were the ones in the tag team. And then they ended up picking Seth to win, to turn on the Shield. But when you think about it, Dean Ambrose was the most over star of the Shield. So then after that breakup, Seth, he rose as a star. Dean Ambrose, the fans got behind him. It was just really hard for Roman, because the promos weren't always there. The babyface run that he went on wasn't that good. I mean, him beating Sheamus for the title was cool, and the match with Roman and Triple H was a good match. It just should have been Roman and Dean, not Roman and Triple H. But yeah, the Tribal Chief run has been great. But then again, a lot of those matches had interferences, and you got to look at that. Like a 4-year reign, and probably 2 or 3 of those defenses didn't include interference in those matches. At 30, I have another guy part of the Shield. I have Seth Rollins, a phenomenal worker. A lot of people don't want to give him the credit that he deserves, but he's on the same level as Roman Reigns, and he's better. Like, he's been able to reinvent his character so many times, whether it was the Monday Night Messiah, this current Seth freaking Rollins, the Architect. Anything he did was great. He's a really good promo worker. You never had to worry about that with Seth, and it was the reason why Vince McMahon picked him to turn on the Shield. And he was the one, he became a star, had the greatest Money in the Bank cash-in ever. So it's hard for me not to have him in the top 30. Then at 29, I had a last member of the Shield. So yes, it was Shield, back to back to back. But I had Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, as he was formerly known. He's won titles all around the world. Like I said, he was the star of the Shield. He was the one cutting the promos most of the time. He was always the best promo worker of the Shield. He was the one in singles competition when they started winning championships. They were like, Dean Ambrose is going to be in the singles division. He's going to be competing for the United States Championship, and that's why he was the U.S. champion and Roman himself for the tag team champions. And then Dean Ambrose, he was getting treated wrong, wearing gas masks and doing silly stuff, taking shots, taking shots in the butt. Like, that stuff was weird. So he left, went to New Japan, made a name for himself, went to AEW, won championships across the world in Japan and AEW, wrestling some of the best ever, getting dream matches we never thought we'd see, since he was always a WWE guy. But he took his opportunity and made the most of it. At number 28, I have Bret Hart, a multiple-time tag team champion, won the WCW Triple Crown before, Intercontinental champion, had a great feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I just think the thing with Bret Hart is that his time in WCW wasn't that great. When he was like the lead guy in WWE, that didn't go too well either. Obviously, the stuff with him and Goldberg that happened, and the Montreal screw job, so couldn't put him any higher than this. At 27, I have Trish Stratus, multiple-time women's champion, leading that women's revolution in the early 2000s. Her feud with Lita, that was amazing for what it did for the women's division. Had one of the most iconic storylines with Vince McMahon, which was really weird. But she was a very dominant heel, and she ended up coming back a few times, made some appearances, did some stuff with Becky Lynch. Wish she would have stayed a bit longer, did some stuff with Zoe Stark, because you've obviously seen Trish and Lita, they came back, teamed up with Becky at WrestleMania. But I wish she would have stayed and put over Zoe Stark. But she had a good run, had a good end to her career. At 26, I have Kevin Nash, also known as Diesel, a big star in the WWF, WWE, TNA. Obviously under the WWF when he was the world champion. It was one of the worst reigns in WWF history. And it's not that he's a bad wrestler, not at all. It's just that the run itself was bad, and that's why he's lower on this list, because he was a really good wrestler. I feel like he was a great talker, but if that reign wasn't as bad as it was, he'd probably be a little higher on this list ahead of a few of the guys I have above him. At 25, I had Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, whatever you want to call him. Now, this guy here, I ain't realized that Scott Hall was just an average white guy. Like, his character was so amazing. Like, I ain't realized he was just an average white guy at the end of the day. Rest in peace also, but a 4-time Intercontinental champion, one of the wrestlers that helped make that belt special. His feud with Shawn Michaels, that's definitely one of the feuds I went back like, yeah, I had to check this out. And they had, if I'm not mistaken, they had one of, if not the first ladder match in WWE. And he was phenomenal. Obviously, him, Kevin Nash, and the NWO, they did amazing stuff. So yeah, Scott Hall. At 24, I had the largest little man in WWE history, Rey Mysterio, 4-time tag team champion, 3-time world champion, former Intercontinental champion. He was the only wrestler to win tag team gold with his son, first father-son duo to win the tag team titles in WWE. Like I said, he had 3 world title reigns. The one in 2011 didn't really exist because he won it, then lost it an hour later, which had never happened. But the greatest luchador of all time, definitely has an argument. And if you want to put him top 20, I can see that. And cruiserweight champion, won that, of course. And he was in Lucha Underground as well. He was a big draw for that company. Just getting people invested and watching Lucha Underground during that time period. Just putting on for the people that was interested to just see some hardcore wrestling every week. At 23, I had a Nueve, Chris Jericho, around the world, WWE, WCW, Ring of Honor, AEW now, world champion, all across the world. Like I said, won multiple Intercontinental titles. I feel like he's always been able to reinvent himself. Like, he's always had some really cool gimmicks. My favorite Chris Jericho is probably The List, and I'm so mad that feud ended up being over the Universal title, because if it was over the U.S. title instead of the Universal title, because I feel like Jericho would be top 20 if that moment had been over the Universal title. And it's not his fault. It's just how Vince McMahon wanted to do things, to have Goldberg and Brock fight for the title again. But man, that feud with him and Chris Jericho should have been more special than what it was. I mean, the match not even that memorable now since it was over the U.S. title. But Chris Jericho, he's an amazing wrestler. So, a great worker. At 22, I have Randy the Macho Man Savage, a multiple-time WWE champion, even won the WCW World Championship at one time, held the Intercontinental Championship for about a year. Uh, uh, he was a phenomenal talker in the ring, definitely one of the best talkers from that time period. He had some pretty good championship reigns. The Montreal Screwjob definitely hurt his career because when he did go to WCW, it wasn't the best. I mean, that definitely hurt his career at that moment because it's like that didn't do a lot for really WCW or WWE wasn't doing so hot at that time when he did make that move. That Montreal Screwjob was messed up and that shouldn't have happened. But this is where I have Randy Savage right outside the top 20. At number 21, I had one of the most dominant women in WWE all time, Chyna. She was a member of DX. She was a great wrestler. She won the WWF Women's Championship just once, surprisingly, but she also was the only female to win the Men's Intercontinental Championship, not just once, but twice. So that's definitely, like, she showed that she could go with the men in the ring. So she's right outside the top 20 for me. To open up the top 20, at number 20, I have Mick Foley, Mankind, Dude Love, Cactus Jack, whatever you want to call him. Always had the ability to reinvent himself like every gimmick he did. It was great, really, no matter the circumstances. Had a great Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker. Had a fun feud, turned into a tag team with The Rock. 11-time tag team champion across the promotions he was with. Multiple-time world champion. And like I said, just his ability to be successful with so many characters. He even entered the Royal Rumble with all 4 characters and didn't win, which I feel like he should have won that. That's based off the fact that he entered with all 4 characters. He should have won. It just would have made for a funny moment. At 19, I got the King of Kings. I got Triple H, the new boss in charge of WWE, 14-time world champion, won King of the Ring in 1997. Part of one of the most dominant factions ever in D-Generation X. Great wrestler. I just think towards the end of his career, his run wasn't that great. He won the Royal Rumble in 2002 and 2016. 2016, when he didn't need, I don't think that championship run was that great. The match with Batista wasn't necessary. DX versus Brothers of Destruction, that wasn't necessary. So I just think towards the end of his career, that really hurt him. And if that didn't happen, he's probably higher on this list. At number 18, I had one of the most technically sound wrestlers of all time. One of the best technical wrestlers of all time, Bryan Danielson. Been all across the globe, New Japan Pro, WWE, Ring of Honor, AEW, winning world titles everywhere. Obviously, one of the most over baby faces in WWE history at his peak. Ended up winning the championship. Unfortunately, he had a few neck injuries, and right now he's taking a break. Going to transition to part-time because I think he'll still have a few more matches before he officially retires. But yeah, I got Bryan Danielson here, and if he didn't have those neck injuries, he might be higher on this list. At 17, I have Bruno Sammartino. He was a big draw in the time he wrestled, and definitely a legend. Held the world title for 7 years, probably because it was like 10, 15 people wrestling at the time. Now I'm just trolling, but Bruno Sammartino, he right here. At number 16, I have Ultimate Warrior, Intercontinental Champion, World Champion. Had a good feud with Hulk Hogan. I think, honestly, he was the better wrestler than Hulk Hogan, but Hogan just had the promo skills and really everything else. But, yeah, I got the Ultimate Warrior here. At number 15, I had Lita, 4-time women's champion. Came back to win the women's tag team titles with Becky Lynch. It was a fun run when she came back. Had the stuff with Edge and Matt Hardy, even though that was real life stuff, made for great television. One of the best women's wrestlers of that early 2000s. Had a great feud with Trish Stratus. At 14, I have Andre the Giant. Unfortunately, he grew super fast and his career wasn't as long as it could have been. But he was a big attraction, one of the biggest draws to the company. That's one of the main reasons why I have him this high. Wasn't the greatest in-ring wrestler, no, but he was a big draw and attraction and did a lot for the WWF. At 13, I have Hulk Hogan. That's all I'm saying. At number 12, I had an icon, Sting. Obviously wrestled around the world in WCW, TNA for a while. Even made his way to WWE for a short stint and then finished his career with AEW. One of the legends of WCW, helped put them on the map. Had a short stint in WWE, like I said. The TNA run was amazing. Then him going out on top with Darby Allin was cool to see. At number 11, I had a 14-time Women's World Champion, Charlotte Flair. I think she's deserving of this spot. One of the best heels in wrestling. Unfortunately, not that good of a babyface, so it's somebody else that I have above her as a female wrestler on this list. But there you go, Charlotte. Now to start the top 10, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, 16-time World Champion. Obviously was a great wrestler, part of the Four Horsemen. But there's a few other people that I just think were simply better than Ric Flair. At number 9, I had Becky Lynch, the 5-time Women's World Champion, won in NXT, on Raw, on SmackDown. First woman to ever hold the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships at the same time. Won the Women's Tag Team titles with Lita. One great in-ring worker, felt really good as a heel, great as a babyface as well. And part of the first group of women to ever main event WrestleMania. At number 8, I have Kenny Omega, former AEW World Champion and former IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Won titles all across the globe, always putting on classic matches, putting on bangers matches. Number 7, I had a legend killer himself, Randy Orton, 14-time WWE Champion, won the U.S. and IC titles both once, won the tag titles 3 times, 2-time Royal Rumble winner, Mr. Money in the Bank, is a Triple Crown and Grand Slam champion. One of the greatest wrestlers ever, elite promo, one of the greatest heels in wrestling ever. Is a solid babyface, not the greatest, but he definitely works best as a heel. Number 6, I had the final boss, or the boss now, The Rock, 8-time WWE champion, 2-time Intercontinental champion, 5-time Tag Team champion, Royal Rumble winner, 9-time Slammy Award winner. Absolutely a phenomenal worker. His promo segments are amazing. So it's not too much denying The Rock being a top 10 wrestler. And I know some of y'all thinking he should be top 5, but it's the 5 people I think are ahead of him make more sense to be in my top 5. At number 5, I had a phenomenal AJ Styles, one of the greatest in-ring workers all time. Really great mic work, been all around the world in New Japan, TNA, WWE, winning world titles. So I feel like it was just right to have him in the top 5. At number 4, I have Stone Cold Steve Austin. Obviously had one of the greatest King of the Ring runs ever, multiple-time world champion. Had one of the greatest feuds in WWE history with The Rock. Not too much more to say about Stone Cold. At number 3, I have Shawn Michaels, probably the greatest in-ring worker. Also really solid on the mic. Was really great with DX in his time. Now, his last run wasn't necessary of him coming back to do the Brothers of Destruction match. But Shawn Michaels is great. I just think the 2 guys ahead of him were better. At number 2, I have John Cena. I don't think he should go out. I think he's second all time. Maybe this last run that he goes on could prove me wrong, but 16-time world champion, multiple-time United States champion, the U.S. Open title runs were great, or the Open challenges were great, I should say. Not too much more to say about John Cena. And number 1, the GOAT of all wrestling, I had an Undertaker, one of the most scariest gimmicks in wrestling, one of the greatest gimmicks of all time. Also being able to reinvent himself, being the American badass when he was, coming out the casket at times, putting on good matches. In even his last match with AJ Styles, his retirement match in 2020, that was a lot of fun. So he had an amazing career, over 30 years long. Went 25-2 at WrestleMania. So I do have Undertaker as my GOAT.